Okay, guys, so let's see how the mainstream establishment media, which basically works for the political establishment, the same establishment that has been trying to rob the election from Donald Trump and the popular vote, the general people of this country, for the past over a year. Let's see how they try to spin the Trump tape.
So it turns out October is full of surprises. Just 30 days before the final votes, hours away from tonight's debate, this surpassingly unusual campaign is in uncharted waters again. In the last 48 hours, something we've never seen before. Dozens of elected officials, senators, governors, members of Congress, all abandoning their party's nominee. The exodus is
unprecedented. Who would have thought that a bunch of old, shriveling political dinosaurs wouldn't support this modern populist candidate, Donald Trump? They claim that they're for, just because Trump is running as a Republican doesn't mean that he is a Republican. And anybody with half a brain knows that Donald Trump is not actually a Republican. That's just the party he chose to run as. So the fact that the Republican establishment is doing everything in their power to rob it from him, to act like, oh my God, we can't believe he said this, we're all going to unendorse Trump. You guys are old and irrelevant. You guys don't matter. You guys are the reason that in 2012 Mitt Romney could barely pack a fucking stadium. Meanwhile, Ron Paul was packing stadiums everywhere he went. This political establishment is the reason that Hillary Clinton can barely fill a high school gymnasium. Yet everywhere Donald Trump goes, it's fucking giant 20,000 plus stadiums packed everywhere he goes. It's all an illusion. And the illusion is enabled and sustained by fucking mainstream media dinosaur talking heads like George Stephanopoulos, who gets up here and because 20 years ago the mainstream media had the entire country hypnotized by their TV brainwash, thinks that he still has some kind of control over what people think.
And she can't make it 15 feet to her car. Give me a break. Give me a break.
And it all began late Friday afternoon when the Washington Post unearthed this disturbing video. Donald Trump and broadcaster Billy Bush on the set of Days of Our Lives, the summer of 2005.
I moved on her, and I failed. I'll admit it. I did try. She was married. I will use some Tic Tacs just in case I start kissing her. I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. I don't either way. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything. Yeah.
Bam! When you're a star, they let you do it. That is the crux that implies consent. He said nothing about raping women. He said nothing about forcing himself on women who don't want it. He said they want it when you're a star. Consent.
I can do anything.
Hello, how are you? Hi.
How are
nice seeing you. Terrific.
And by the way, isn't it interesting that the top story on George Stephanopoulos' Sunday news broadcast, the top story is Donald Trump 10 years ago, having man talk, saying, yeah, I like to kiss women assertively because I'm confident and I know that they like me because I'm confident and I'm a public figure, which is what women tend to do. Go look at the last time Tom Cruise was on Oprah's show. Tom Cruise walks onto the stage and all the women in the Oprah audience, literally, their vaginas explode with glee. Okay? Fame, success, and power, women like it. Trump had that for many, many years. But notice how this is the top story. What Trump said, this insignificant garbage that Trump said a few years ago is the top story, but not the WikiLeaks data dump that shows Hillary Clinton's secret transcripts to Goldman Sachs. Secret transcripts of her speeches to mega rich billionaire banks while she claims she's a Democrat fighting for the poor. Where she said you have to have a public face and a private face when it comes to policy. She literally said you have to lie to the public because they can't handle the truth of what goes on behind the scenes. The very essence of political corruption in those emails. But the top story is Donald Trump says he likes to kiss women consensually. Right. This is why the mainstream media, as I've heard many others say, has a 4 to 6% trust rating.
Terrific.
Have a little husband down. You can get off the bus.
Okay, absolutely. Melania said this was okay.
A written statement from Trump apologizing if anyone was offended only fueled the firestorm. So midnight Friday, under pressure from his top advisors and running mate, Trump posted this on Facebook.
Anyone who knows me knows these words don't reflect who I am. I said it, I was wrong, and I apologize. I've said some foolish things, but there's a big difference between the words and actions of other people. Bill Clinton has actually abused women, and Hillary has bullied, attacked, shamed, and intimidated his victims.
Too little, too late. The reaction swift and good.
Too little, too late. Yeah, by the way, guys, you may not know this, but the so-called feminist candidate Hillary Clinton, multiple of Bill's rape victims have accused Hillary Clinton of torturing and tormenting them into silence for decades. You know, let's see if they play the actual interview clips of Juanita Broaddrick crying her face off because Hillary Clinton grabbed her by the hand, crushed her hand tightly, looked into her eyes angrily, and subliminally implied, if you say anything, you're going down. You better not speak a word about Bill Clinton raping you. And will they play those interviews that have been around for years? Will George Stephanopoulos play those interviews? Now that we're on the topic of Trump being an evil misogynist who hates and attacks women, will they play that clip? Well, I doubt it. You'd think it'd be relevant, right? But no, George Stephanopoulos cuts to, well, it's too little too late. All the Republicans are jumping off the bandwagon. It's over for Trump. Didn't you say that a year ago when Trump said the comments about illegal Mexican immigrants that you fuckers distorted out of context? It was over, right? You people have no control anymore. The mainstream media used to have control over the minds of the public. They used to be able to convince people any lie that they wanted. It doesn't work anymore, and Trump is living proof. How did he make it this far? Because every time you guys said it was over, he just grew in the polls. You fuckers have no power.
All through Saturday, a cascade of condemnation from top Republicans. At least 14 Republican senators saying they won't vote for Trump or want him out of the race, including 5 of the 6 GOP women.
Please tell me how any of this is breaking news. And who cares what a bunch of old dinosaur politicians say about Donald Trump? Because remember that Donald Trump isn't a Republican. He's a third-party candidate who's running as Republican, sort of like what Ron Paul did in 2008 and 2012.
And former nominee John McCain. Backlash on the House side, too. At least 25 GOP members now rejecting the nominee. House Speaker Paul Ryan said he sickened, disinvited Trump from a rally in Wisconsin. When Ryan appeared, he got some scattered boos from Trump supporters. VP nominee Mike Pence refused to appear at that rally to defend Trump, and something else we've never seen before, a nominee rebuked by his own running mate. As a husband and father, he said, I was offended by the words and actions described by Donald Trump in the 11-year-old video released yesterday. I do not condone his remarks and cannot defend.
Listen, we all know that the only reason Donald Trump picked you, Mike Pence, is so that he could appeal to you old, fucking, dumb, dying, Social Security dependent conservatives who will be irrelevant in 10 years because you'll be worm food. So it's really irrelevant what this prude pseudo-Christian man has to say because it was so offensive. No one gives a fuck. It's time to grow up.
And the scene at Trump Tower, chaotic and tense. The candidate's top advisors filed in for damage control inside his penthouse, Trump defiant, telling the Wall Street Journal there's zero chance he'll quit. The Washington Post, I'd never withdraw. I've never withdrawn in my life. The New York Times, I am in this until the end.
Why would he drop out? He didn't drop out on the day one of his campaign when he said some illegal Mexican immigrants are rapists and murderers. And the mainstream media twisted his words and said that he said all Mexicans are rapists and murderers. And you motherfuckers hounded him 24/7 for weeks. He didn't drop out then. Why would he drop out now? This is all a mainstream media hoax to make people switch over to Hillary Clinton or anything else in the final 30 days of this fucking election. It's a big illusion.
By early Saturday evening, after watching the crowds gather on cable TV, Trump went downstairs for a fix from his fans. We are covering all the angles of this breaking story this morning. Let's begin at the debate hall in St. Louis with John Carl.
But you won't talk about Juanita Broderick's recent interview with Breitbart News, crying her face out because she's lived in horror and fear for the past 3 decades because Hillary Clinton enabled her husband's rapes. No, that's not a top story. What's a top story is Trump saying 10 years ago, I like kissing women. Wow. And that's why no one trusts these fucking empty suit talking heads.
And John, this is being described by top Republicans as the worst crisis for the party since Watergate.
George, that cascade of Republicans that have fled Donald Trump,
The cascade. Oh, they're all abandoning ship. It doesn't matter. If these establishment Republican politicians who are ditching Trump, if they actually mattered, Trump wouldn't have been able to win the Republican nomination. The Republican establishment politicians, the same one ditching Trump right now, they tried to rob and steal the election from Donald Trump during the primaries through the delegate shenanigans system. They couldn't do it because they don't have any more power. Okay, Bernie Sanders was the Democrat Party equivalent of Donald Trump. Both outsider candidates who represent populist sentiments. The difference is that Trump, of course, he's ballsy enough, courageous enough to fight for what he's won, whereas Bernie the weak boy Sanders, he's a piece of shit, and apparently, according to Hillary Clinton, all of his supporters are nothing but basement dwellers. So the Republican establishment has no power, and it's sort of pointless for me to even sit here and try to reiterate this, but it bothers me because the television and these idiots who get in front of the television, they still have an outdated sense of power. You know, when you go to a Starbucks and they have a TV up there, they got CNN, they got MSNBC on the TV. They still have this sense of control over the people's minds. And that's the only reason I'm even refuting these people. Because the truth is they've lost their power, and the proof in that is the fact that Donald Trump, a populist candidate, was able to win the nomination of one of these establishment parties in spite of the establishment trying to steal it from Donald Trump. You know, when Ron Paul ran in 2012, they engaged in so much shenanigans to try to steal it from Ron Paul in many states where he had actually won popular votes. In many states where through the delegate system he'd won or was very close to winning, but they totally disregarded that because they didn't want to give him any possible chance. Ron Paul couldn't do it because there wasn't enough support yet, but 4 years later, 2016, the support was finally there for a third-party populist candidate, Donald Trump, and he was able to get it. The point I'm trying to make is that these people have no more power over us. They're done. So these people reporting about the exodus and all the Republicans ditching Trump, it doesn't matter. If these Republicans ditching Trump had power in the first place, Trump wouldn't have won the nomination of the Republican Party.
Includes elected officials from the Northeast, from the South, from the West. It includes establishment Republicans, Tea Party Republicans, the full spectrum of the Republican Party. And George, I expect that we will see many more after this debate. A lot of the top Republican leaders, including Party Chairman Reince Priebus, Paul Ryan, Mitch McConnell, the Senate leader, have not fully gone out and said that they no longer support Trump. But a disastrous performance in this debate, or a performance that does not put these doubts to rest, will lead to many more, including, I believe, some of the leaders to flee Trump.
They want to see a full-throated apology from Trump tonight. No excuses at all. A lot of pressure on Mike Pence as...
Of course they want Trump to apologize because that's what these fucking cucks do best. That's what these weak-ass men do best. They apologize every time someone says you shouldn't have said what you really have on your mind. It's the essence of political correctness, which political correctness is nothing more than guilting people for their authentic opinions. And I mean, why would you want to shame somebody into not expressing their true opinions? Wouldn't you at least want them to be honest about what they believe? So that way you can know who they are? So again, I mean, I could spend an hour analyzing this nonsense. I've already spent 15 minutes. It's a bunch of bullshit. It will have no effect. The poll numbers are already coming out. It's basically had no effect on Trump's poll numbers because none of these mainstream media contrived, scandals about Trump have ever hurt Trump's numbers. So, fuck these people. Fight back against YouTube censorship by supporting me on Patreon. You'll also get access to exclusive, never-before-seen videos and other perks like monthly Google Hangouts with me, free books and t-shirts, and more.